You're the product manager everyone relies on. Features ship on time. Stakeholders love working with you. And metrics are green across the board. So why did they just hire an external candidate for that director role that you wanted? Here's the counterintuitive truth about executive recognition. Your best work is making you invisible to leadership. While you're deep in execution, solving real problems, executive 3 levels above, they have no clue that you exist. Look, I've coached over 1,000 product managers, and the ones breaking into senior roles understand something that most people don't. Great execution without strategic visibility is career suicide. The product managers getting promoted aren't better at the job. They've mastered what I called the visibility architecture, making sure the right people understand their business impact before the promotion cycles even begin. Let's break down exactly why this happens and how to fix it. Let's start with the core problem. And it's one that might feel uncomfortable because it's actually caused by doing great work. Your best product management work happens in execution layers that executives never see or touch. Think about it. You're optimizing conversion funnels, running experiments, iterating on user flows, while leadership is in board meetings discussing market expansion, competitive positioning, and 3-year strategic bets. Those are two completely different worlds. And the gap between them is where your career gets stuck. Here's what I mean. You spend 3 months reducing churn by 15% through a series of really thoughtful product improvements. Technical debt decisions, UX refinements, better onboarding flows, you're making all of them. And that's incredible work. But what happens when it gets reported upward? Your stakeholder management success gets labeled as, maybe team collaboration. Your complex problem solving becomes invisible because executives only see the final simplified outcome. They see that churn went down and they assume, well, things are working. That was expected. They don't see the strategic thinking that made it happen. I had a client, let's call her Maya, okay? So she was a senior PM at a large fintech company, and she told me, Shobit, I feel like I'm doing really good work. I'm doing the best work of my career, is what she said. Nobody knows about me. Nobody knows about the work that I do. My manager doesn't even pass my name along. And when I dug in, the pattern was essentially this. The deeper her product expertise got, the further she operated from strategic business conversations. She loved doing her work. She was solving really hard problems. She loved doing the work, but she was solving them in a layer of the organization that leadership did not have any visibility into. And here's the irony. Excellence in execution actually creates a communication barrier between your impact and your leadership awareness. The better you are at your job, the more seamlessly things run, and the less attention it attracts from the people making promotion decisions. So if you're sitting there thinking, I just need to keep doing great work and they'll notice, I need you to help me on this. That's not how it works. Not at the senior level, not at director, not at VP. The rules are changing and you need to change with them. Now, some of you might be thinking, but my manager knows what I'm doing. They'll advocate for me. And look, I hope you have a great manager. But let me tell you about what actually happens in most organizations. Your manager summarizes your work in ways that make sense to them, but it doesn't serve the purpose of communicating your impact. The translation that happens between your impact and what gets communicated upward, that's where your career narrative gets destroyed. So let me give you a real example. You lead a cross-functional initiative, you align engineering, design, data science, marketing around a new feature that increases, let's say, engagement by 18%. That's a strategic leadership level contribution. But your manager's update to the director might say, feature launched, delivered on schedule, team collaborated well, user retention went up by 18%. Don't you see what just happened? Your cross-functional leadership got reduced to the team working well, okay? And maybe even said that you worked well with engineering and design. Your 18% retention became, 18% retention, but what it means for the company was not communicated. The entire strategic narrative of what you did might be lost in this layer of translation. And it's not because your manager is bad. It's because most managers are focused on team performance metrics and not really communicating individual strategic contributions. They're reporting on overall progress, but your specific business impact is getting lost. And honestly, most managers lack the executive relationships needed to position your work strategically, even if they wanted to. They are focused on themselves more so than anything else. And I see this pattern all the time. Your business impact gets filtered through multiple reporting layers before reaching decision makers. And by the time it gets to the people who really make the decision on promotions, it's been summarized, averaged, and stripped of all the nuance that makes your contribution stand out. One of my clients, let's call him Rahul. He was a strong senior PM at a major tech company. His manager liked him, gave him great reviews. But when I asked Rahul, what does your VP know about you specifically? He paused. He said, I honestly don't think she knows what I do. And when I talked to him more, his manager had been presenting Rahul's work as overall team wins, which is fine, but Rahul personally was invisible at the leadership level. Here's the hard truth. Waiting for managerial advocacy puts your career advancement in somebody else's control. And that's the risk you cannot afford to take if you're serious about getting to the next level. Your career is too important to outsource to someone else's communication skill. Now, even when PMs try to get visibility, there's a third problem that trips them up. And this one is subtle but incredibly important. Leadership thinks in business outcomes. You communicate in product deliverables. Those are two fundamentally different languages. Think about the last time you presented to a senior leader. Did you talk about user research insights? Not so long. Here's gathered customer feedback. Did you talk about the product improvements you ship? They hear, cool, making product improvements as we expect from a product manager. Did you talk about the technical complexity you navigated? Well, they don't care. Executives care about competitive positioning, revenue growth, market share, customer lifetime value, business metric. They don't care about feature tech complexity or technical challenges. It's just not their world. Your strategic trade-offs disappear when they get translated into operational status updates. That brilliant decision you made to kill a feature that would have cost the company 2 quarters of our engineering time, in the exec summary, it doesn't even show up because leadership evaluates impact through business transformation, not through execution excellence. Let me make this concrete. I had a client who told a VP we shipped a new recommendation engine using collaborative filtering. The VP nodded politely and moved on. But we reworked that message. It was like, look, we identified that 40% of our users weren't discovering products relevant to them, which was costing us an estimated $12 million in annual revenue. Now, we built a collaborative filtering system that showed a 23% increase in cross-sell conversion in a certain amount of time. And that is expected to eventually gain us that $12 million in ARR. Same work, same feature, completely different response from the VP. The VP started asking questions, leaning in, wanting to know more. The VP even told other people about this feature. Now, gap between product language and executive language is where careers plateau. And the PMs who learn to bridge that gap, they're the ones who get tapped for director roles, who get invited to strategic planning sessions, who get asked, what do you think, by the people who matter. If you're seeing the gap between your impact and how leadership perceives it, I teach the frameworks that close the gap every single week. Subscribe so you get the strategic positioning insights that turn strong PMs into obvious choice for senior roles. All right, we talked about the 3 problems: deep work invisibility, the manager translation bottleneck, and the executive language disconnect. Now let's talk about how to fix it. This is what I call strategic visibility architecture. First, document business outcomes in executive language before they get filtered through management layers. Don't wait for your manager to translate your work. You need to own your narrative. Every major initiative you lead, write a brief. 2-3 paragraphs that frame your work in terms of business impact, revenue influence, costs avoided, market positioning strengthened. What would have happened had you not done that? Customer lifetime value increase. There's so many metrics you can use, but use the language that executives use and share it proactively with them. I tell my clients, create what I call an impact brief for every quarter. Not a status report, an impact brief. Here's the business problem. Here's what we did. Here's the measurable outcome. Here's what it means for the company's strategic positioning. The document becomes your career currency. Second, create direct value touchpoints with leadership through strategic insights, market intelligence. You tell them what the customers are saying. You tell them what customers care about. This is a big one. You need to find ways to be in front of senior leaders that aren't just status updates. Share a market insight. Send a brief competitive analysis. Flag a strategic risk you've identified. You're not self-promoting. You're being a strategic asset to the business. In one of my previous jobs, I got known as the person who was responsible for all competitive analysis. How? I just went ahead and did it. And then the CEO was like, Shobit owns our competitive analysis. Okay, great. Now, one of my clients started sending a monthly 1-paragraph email to VP and other teams with a competitive insight relevant to the product area. So she was adding value to the VP. And along with that, also sharing the impact summary. Within 3 months, VP started forwarding those emails to other leaders. Within 6 months, she was invited to a very important quarterly strategic planning meeting. The only person at her level invited. She didn't ask for a seat at the table. She just earned it by consistently demonstrating strategic thinking. Third, position yourself in cross-functional initiatives that expose you to senior decision makers. This is what people call networking. Not all projects are created equal for your career. Some projects help you heads down in execution and get the impact. Other projects put you in rooms with directors, VPs, C-suite leaders. You need to be intentional about which projects you raise your hand for. Company-wide initiatives, cross-BU collaborations, strategic planning work streams, even stuff that's not directly related to work. Anything that gives you visibility. A DEI initiative, organizing something for the office, like something that puts you in front of these people and helps build relationships, do that. Then fourth, communicate your impact as business problem solved, not features delivered. Every time you talk about your work in meetings, in Slack, in performance reviews, reframe it. You didn't ship a dashboard. You gave the sales team real-time visibility into pipeline health, which reduced forecasting errors by 30%. You didn't improve onboarding. You reduced time to value for new customers by 40%, directly impacting retention or directly impacting the time it took for them to upgrade. That's a business metric. That's what people care about. So now fifth, build executive relationships during strategic planning cycles, not just performance reviews. You're always building that relationship. Every week, if you're not moving one relationship forward, you have failed. Most PMs only think about executive visibility during review season. That's just way too late. I mean, the PMs who architect visibility do it all the time. They build relationships during strategic planning cycles, during company all hands, during moments when executives are looking for input on the future direction of the business. That's when you want to be known. And sixth, establish yourself as a PM who connects product decisions to business strategy. That is the ultimate positioning. When leadership thinks about product decisions that impact the business, your name should come up. Not because you're political, but because you have consistently demonstrated that you think about product through a business lens. You connect the dots between what you're building and why it matters to the company's strategic objectives. Now, this is really important because I remember at McKinsey, at Google, basically we were told the same thing. You do the work before you get the title. So just start doing the work. The person next level above is going to do a very important job connecting the dots. Why don't you start doing it right now at your level? And then naturally people see you ready for that next level. Let me bring this all together with a framework you can take with you. Execution excellence without strategic positioning is equal to career invisibility. And that's the equation. Most strong PMs are only solving execution excellence. Your product expertise is incredibly valuable, but executive recognition requires business impact communication. You need to speak the language that leadership speaks. You need to be in the rooms where decisions get made, and you need to own your own narrative instead of hoping somebody else tells your story for you. Senior PMs don't wait for discovery. They architect visibility around their strategic contributions. They're proactive, they're intentional, they're deliberate about who knows what about their work and why it matters. Recognition comes from being seen as a business asset, not a product executor. When leadership looks at you and thinks, this person understands our business, not just our product, that's when doors open. Executive recognition doesn't happen by accident. It's a result of deliberate positioning around your business impact. Now, if you want to move from being valued for execution to being seen as strategic leadership material, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I keep sharing more and more insights around that. And by the way, if you're ready now to move not just to the next level, but to the next role, make sure you check out this video that I released that tells you exactly what to do if you're looking for an AI product management role in 2026.